If you're thinking about leaving California for Arizona, there's a few things nobody really tells you before you move. Like the fact that your windshield was probably gonna crack your first year here. You might see a giant wall of dust roll across the city that looks like something straight out of The Mummy. And you may realize pretty quickly that Arizona is a lot more brown than it is lush greenery that you're used to in California. But at the same time, you might suddenly have a 5-bedroom house with a pool, more time with your family in winters that feel like absolute paradise. Hi everyone, I'm Alejandra with Moving to Arizona. My family made the move from Los Angeles to Arizona 10 years ago, and today I want to share the 10 biggest truths I wish someone told me before leaving California. These are the things people don't always realize when moving from California to Arizona. And if you're watching this because you're thinking about moving from California, comment California below. I'm always curious to know where people are moving from. And if you want help planning your move, you can reach me directly at 480-382-0519 or book a call at zoomtoarizona.com. My team and I specialize in helping people relocate to Arizona. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, your quality of life changes in ways you don't even expect. This was the biggest surprise for us. When we were living in Los Angeles, our rent was actually higher than our mortgage is now here in Arizona. And here's the crazy part. In LA, we were living in a much smaller place, a 2-bedroom condo. Now here, I'm in a 5-bedroom house in Queen Creek with our own pool and a 4-car garage and space for our family to actually enjoy. But the real change wasn't just the house, it was the time. In California, it felt like we're always rushing around everywhere. Traffic, work, commutes, schedules. Here, life just slowed down in the best possible way. More time outside, more time with family, more breathing room. One thing I hear all the time from families who move here is this: we wish we moved sooner. Not because California is bad, but because finally life feels a little easier here. All right, number 2, people are surprisingly friendly here. That's something that really surprised us when we moved here, was the people and their friendliness. I don't mean this in a negative way towards California. I loved living there. But sometimes in places like LA, it can feel harder to build real relationships. Everyone is busy, schedules are packed, and sometimes people can be a little flaky in California. One thing we noticed pretty quickly after moving to Arizona is how genuinely friendly people are. Neighbors introduce themselves, kids play outside together, people invite you to community events. It just feels easier to build real connections. And that sense of community is something a lot of families I help relocate talk about once they're all settled in. For many people, it ends up being one of their favorite parts of living in Arizona. All right, number 3. The heat is real here. This is probably the biggest environmental adjustment you're going to be making. Arizona summers can be brutal, regularly hitting 110 degrees or higher, and the heat here is different from California. In many parts of California, you have coastal breezes, cooler nights, or seasonal variety. Here, the heat is dry and intense. Air conditioning is not optional, it's essential. Every home here has air conditioning, but homes here are designed for it. And many places that you go are very well air conditioned. Plus, you also learn to adjust your lifestyle. In the summer, you're gonna do early mornings outside and evenings outside. Midday, you're gonna be indoors or in a pool. Another thing people notice pretty quickly is how the heat affects your car. Tires wear out faster here. Car batteries don't last nearly as long because of the extreme heat is so hard on them. So it's pretty common to replace those more frequently than you might have in California. All right, number 4, monsoon season replaces earthquakes. One interesting difference between California and Arizona is the natural disasters. In California, people worry about earthquakes. Here in Arizona, we don't deal with that. Instead, we have something called monsoon season, which usually happens during the summer. Monsoons can bring heavy rain, beautiful lightning storms, and very strong winds. and sometimes massive dust storms called haboobs. If you've never seen one before, it is honestly pretty surreal. It looks like a giant wall of dust rolling across the desert. The first time you see one, it almost feels like you're watching a scene from the Mummy movie. They're so incredible to watch, but definitely watch from inside because they are extremely dusty and sandy. You don't want to get that in your eyes. I have accidentally because I was trying to film one. All right, number 5, wildlife is more common here than you expect. Another thing that surprises people is the wildlife you encounter all around. Depending on where you live, you might see things like scorpions, rattlesnakes, javelinas, or even Gila monsters. Now, this doesn't mean that they're everywhere, but it's something you learn to be aware of when living in the desert. Some areas are going to be more prone to scorpions than others. For example, communities with lakes or older landscaping sometimes scorpions much more often. But something very interesting is where we live in Queen Creek, both in our old house and in our new current build, we've never had any scorpions. We don't even spray for them, which is crazy. When we lived in Chandler, believe me, my husband was sprayed constantly. So really it depends on the neighborhood. It depends on the area. Another cool thing many people don't realize is that Arizona has all these beautiful wild horses. If you go to places like the Salt River or some of the local lakes around the valley, you can see them just out roaming around, having some water, playing in the water. They're so beautiful to see. It's one of those unique Arizona experiences. If you're watching this and thinking about moving from California to Arizona, I'm curious, what's the biggest reason you're considering the move? Is it the cost of living, more space for your family, or are you just wanting a slower pace of life? Drop it in the comments below because I read every single one and it actually helps me create future videos answering the questions that people have. All right, let's keep going because the next one is something almost every Californian experiences their first year here. Number 6, your windshield will probably crack. This sounds random, but every Californian eventually learns this truth. Windshield chips are extremely common here. Arizona roads use small gravel, and with all that construction happening all around the valley, rocks get kicked up pretty easily, especially on the freeway. So cracked windshields happen often. So most of us locals carry full glass coverage on our insurance because it's not unusual to have to repair or replace your windshield once or twice a year. Of course, now that I have the coverage, I haven't needed it. All right, number 7, Arizona is definitely more brown. This is a big adjustment for Californians, is that Arizona is more brown than California. So if you're used to that beautiful lush greenery, tall trees, coastal vegetation, the desert landscape can feel surprising at first. You're gonna see more cactus, desert plants, and open space. But something interesting happens once you live here for a while. You start to appreciate the beauty of the desert. The mountains, the cactus, the open skies, and the sunsets here are honestly some of the most beautiful I've ever seen. I don't get tired of looking at them. The sky lights up with orange, pink, and purple colors. It almost looks like a painting. It's one of those things that never gets old here. All right, number 8, Arizona winters are incredible. This is when Arizona really shines. December through March, the weather is amazing. I'd even say through April. Sunny skies, 60s and 70s most days, cooler evenings and cooler mornings, eating on patios, walking outside. While much of the country is freezing, people here are outside enjoying life. It's one of the biggest reasons people fall in love with Arizona. All right, number 9, car registration can surprise people. This is a cost people don't always expect. Their vehicle registration in Arizona. Arizona calculates your registration based on the value and the age of your car. So a new car is going to be much higher. So that first registration is gonna feel pretty sticker shock expensive. But the good news is it drops every year as your car gets older. So the cost does decrease over time. All right, number 10, rising costs are happening here too, unfortunately. Arizona is gonna still be more affordable than California overall, but Phoenix has grown rapidly and prices have definitely increased over the last few years. Housing prices have gone up, utilities can be higher in the summer because of that air conditioning, but overall, many families still feel their money stretches much further here than it did in California. All right, here's a few lifestyle surprises Californians noticed right away. How school schedules work here. Many Arizona schools follow a modified year-round calendar. So instead of one long summer break, kids typically go to school for about 9 weeks, then they get 2 weeks breaks. Now, some areas they only get 1 week break. This happens in the fall, this happens in the winter, and this happens in the spring. So they usually get around 2 months off during the summer. A lot of families actually end up loving this. I know I do, because you adjust to the schedule and it just becomes a lifestyle thing. Another thing people ask about is the traffic. Yes, Phoenix has traffic and it has increased as the valley continues to grow. But compared to California traffic, it actually moves. In LA, you can sit on the freeway for an hour barely moving. Here, you might hit rush hour traffic, but most of the time you're still moving and getting where you need to be. Also, parking is easier. Weekend trips can be so amazing. You can drive to places like Sedona, Flagstaff, the mountains, all within a few hours. Arizona really has its own rhythm of life here. When my family first moved here from Los Angeles, we didn't realize how much life would change for us. Not just financially, but in how we actually lived every day. More space, more sunshine, more time together. And now helping other families make that same move is honestly one of my favorite parts of my job. So if you're thinking about relocating to Arizona and you want help figuring out where to live or how to plan your move, you can reach me directly at 480-382-0519 or book a call at zoomtoarizona.com. My team and I would love to help you move to Arizona. And if you found value in the video, please hit subscribe. That way you get notified on my next videos because I keep putting them out. All right, thanks for hanging out and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.